Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome back to Adjective Gaming. Got something a little bit different for you here today. So I was talking to buddy Ben, my friend Ben, who's on a lot of videos with me. I'm sure you've seen him if you've been watching some of our content. But I was talking to him about like what my favorite game consoles were. We were talking about it on the last episode of Sunset and Stardew. And for me, I think for a lot of gamers at least, your favorite console is usually your first one. So in my case, my dad growing up, he had an Atari when he was like a teenager, I think. And then maybe like late teenage years, early adulthood years. And then he went to the NES, the Nintendo. So when I was born in 1991, he had the NES and the Atari still, but I wasn't old enough to play them yet. So I think my first game console technically was the Sega Genesis. So that's why today I figured we could take a look at some of these Sega Genesis games. So this is the Sega Mega Drive Classics on Steam, otherwise known as the Sega Genesis Collection. Now the cool thing is a lot of these games, so there's tons of games over here. I've added on some DLC throughout the years. But the cool thing, which we're going to get into eventually, is that there's a really big modding community in the Steam Workshop behind some of these. And they've obviously tiptoed their way around some copyright stuff because there are just full Sega Genesis games available as DLC for a lot of these games that are already in the collection. So I like the overall aesthetic of this collection a lot. As you can see, you can just kind of look around the room. I've never looked at extras. So yeah, just achievements, challenges. But yeah, this is like basically my dream room from when I was a kid in the 90s. Like I would have loved to have had like a Sega Genesis collection this huge, but I'd say we just should get it started with probably the first game that I ever played on a Sega Genesis and probably the one that the most people are familiar with, and that's Sonic the Hedgehog. So it's cool. They actually show the cartridge going into the system, and then the game is right there to play. That noise. That right there is video game nostalgia at its finest for me. And then this opening music, man. So good. Okay. Yeah, this is one of my favorite... Oh, wait, what's happening? I guess I didn't actually start playing. Okay, you have to use the D-pad, okay. So yeah, so I should say I haven't actually gone in and tested out a whole bunch of these yet, so I'm not sure what, like, the input, will be like or anything. Let's see. The sound's going to be a little bit loud in this first game, so I can adjust it, so I apologize for that. I didn't think to go in and do that, but let's just take a minute here and enjoy this good soundtrack. But yeah, this was definitely the first Sega Genesis game, because I think this came with the system. I know a lot of people got Altered Beast as the pack-in game with their system, but mine was Sonic the Hedgehog. Oh, and here we go. So yeah, if you're not familiar with Sonic the Hedgehog, there's 3 acts in each stage. And if you jump through that ring at the end, then you get to go to a secret stage, which I've never been a huge fan of these secret stages, but we'll see what we can do. I like the ones that they added in later games instead of this one. I feel like this one I don't do very well in. And then, of course, there's these red blocks in certain corners of the stage, and if you touch those, then you have to leave the secret stage. Yeah, this is about the point that I usually get, and then I lose. Okay, cool, I got an extra life. Oh. Okay, that's probably enough to show that. And then, yeah, you hit the red, and then you're out of that. So yeah, this was definitely one of my favorite game series of all time, just because of the nostalgia that it brings to me. We'll back out of this now. Let's see if I can go into some sound settings. Let's see, emulator settings. No, let's see, input options. Audio settings, there we go. Game volume, yeah, we'll turn it down here. Okay, we'll see how that does for us here. So I'm going to dive right into Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I think that might be my favorite one out of all the Sonic games for whatever reason. Yep, good stuff. I think I like the soundtrack better in Sonic the Hedgehog 1, but I think I like the gameplay and the level design a little bit more in 2. I hate those guys. So yeah, Sega Genesis was my first game console as a kid, so I played games like Sonic the Hedgehog, and then I'm going to show later, we're going to show you Golden Axe and Streets of Rage. I played Streets of Rage 1 and 2, never played 3, I don't think. Or at least not as a kid. I came back to it as an adult later, and I've played and beaten all the Streets of Rage games, all the Golden Axe games, all the Sonic games. And then, of course, as a kid, you get into some weird territory where you're like, oh man, all these games are fun because I'm a kid and I don't have a sense of like what's good and what's bad yet. So I played a lot of like licensed games like movie games. So like Batman the movie, the game, or Home Alone, which I was able to find a Steam Workshop mod of Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, the game, but not Home Alone. Which I think the first Home Alone game, while not an excellent game by any stretch of the imagination, is still a way better game than Home Alone 2. So that's enough of that there. We can adjust the sound a little bit more here. Sorry about all that. It's just hard to turn it up just one there, and that should be good. Then we'll go in and I'll show you some of Sonic 3 here. Sonic 3 is also a good game. This was the introduction of Knuckles. Yeah, all these games have really good music. I like the music a whole lot. Oh, I forgot. Okay, so I'm using an Xbox One controller, so it's kind of wonky because the Sega Genesis had A and B buttons. And I think the start button is just like the confirm button. I'm so used with modern consoles, like the confirm button is usually like the X button or the A button. Oops, and that pauses the game. Yeah, I like this island music they got here in these first couple stages. Yeah, there's Knuckles. He's always fucking around with Sonic. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Oh, fuck you, monkey. There we go. See, a weird thing, when you push down and push A, Sonic does his speed dash thing. And I don't think that they added that. Oh, shit. I don't think that they added that until Sonic 2, because I don't remember being able to do that in Sonic 1. Okay. So then after you do that, so that's how they incorporated the special stages into Sonic 3. Shit. And of course you pick up your invincibility thing here for a minute. One thing I will say, the water just reminded me, that's my least favorite thing by far about Sonic 2 is the water level, by far. The water stage is, I hated that. Okay, and here's our first boss battle. Okay, no, I forgot, this isn't actually a boss battle, it's just like, okay. Because usually you don't get to a boss battle until the third act of a stage. Oh boy. Okay. So I forgot some of these rocks you just can't break for whatever reason. Ooh. See, the emulation on this collection for whatever reason is a little bit rough. Okay, and I think this might be... And you can keep this in the air, yeah. Okay. So yeah, so that's the Sonic games. I'm sure if you're a gamer, you're at least familiar with the name Sonic the Hedgehog, whether you actually grew up and played them or not. And then they have Sonic 3D Blast, which wasn't as great, and then Sonic Spinball. So since we're right here, we'll go to Streets of Rage next. One of my all-time favorite game series. I love these side-scrolling beat-em-up games, and soundtrack, especially in Streets of Rage 2. Streets of Rage 2 in general is one of my favorite games of all time. And then it gives you the character select screen here at the beginning. I usually always go with Axel. So it'll take me a minute to remember what my punch and kick buttons and special button is here. Whoops, so the X button, I just used my special on accident. So don't push the X button again, is my personal note to myself. So at least we know now, yeah, the X button is the special button. Okay, circle is jump. So, okay, so you just have the punch button. There's no kick in this, I guess. So yeah, with Streets of Rage 2, it's very, very similar to the first one, but they improved like almost everything about it. Like the controls feel better, the enemies they look better, the general look of the game is better. Yeah, I find myself at least once or twice a year coming back to Streets of Rage, at least Streets of Rage 2 for sure. I usually play that game to completion at least once a year. And then the same goes for Golden Axe. Golden Axe is a very similar game to Streets of Rage. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up, but it's much more medieval in nature in terms of like story and aesthetic and character design for sure. These games are pretty hard too. And then I don't know if I think you can play with 2 players for the first Streets of Rage. I know you can for sure in the second one. I remember it was another game that my dad and I played through a couple times together, but I mostly played Streets of Rage by myself growing up. Alright, so I'm going to exit out of this because I want to show, I think, more of Streets of Rage 2, just because I love this game so much. If any of you, by the way, grew up with the Sega Genesis or have any nostalgia for it, let me know in the comments. Feel free, anytime really, let me know how you're feeling in the comments about, the stuff we're putting out. But in this case specifically, I want to hear if you have any stories about, whether it's the Sega Genesis or any classic console, anything that you grew up with. I want to hear your stories and your favorite old games. In this game, they introduced Max, this big badass who I always pick Max. Listen to the soundtrack. God, what a badass, this guy. Jesus, he's like the Incredible Hulk. So yeah, the buttons are the same. As you can tell, the layout of the first level is very similar, but then they added this, like the going down like at an angle, kinda, like instead of just being a straight side scroller. But yeah, obviously, like I said, I'll probably say this more than once, but I was extremely biased because, and I think most people are. So like a lot of people's first console, from what I've talked to at least, has been the NES or the SNES, and I don't have the same nostalgia. Like, I love those games. Like, I'm a huge Nintendo fan. I love the Mario games. Like Super Mario Brothers 3 is one of the best games ever made, but I just didn't play it when I was a kid. So I came back to, I mean, I was a kid when I played, just not as early on. Like, I think when my dad got me this Genesis, or got me the Genesis, I was probably about 4 or 5 years old. So that's like very early childhood development years where like some of your best memories are made, and it's where you really start to figure out, like, especially if you're going to be a gamer, it's like, okay, you're really just starting to learn how to play them. And then when you start to get older, you're like, okay, here's the kind of games I like, here's what I don't like. And for whatever reason, Genesis games, I know it's not the best system, and there's a lot of garbage on this system, especially since it just turned into a dump for like licensed movie games eventually. But I have this huge amount of nostalgia for it, and I want to think that I'd love it no matter what, like even if I came to it later in life. But I think the truth is, because I grew up playing these games, it's the main reason why I love them so much. Yeah, this is one of my favorite games of all time, and the soundtrack is like in my top 5 for sure. Back when I was collecting vinyl records, I had this soundtrack on vinyl, and I had to stop collecting vinyl because I'm into so many different things. Obviously games is my number one thing, but I'm into music, movies, TV shows, just so many different things, and vinyl was the one that was the most expensive, and I was into it for a couple years, and it just got to be so expensive, and just got to the point where I realized, like, hey, I'm gonna have to cut one of my hobbies out of my life because I can't afford them all. So I was like, I'm not gonna cut video games, obviously, and I ended up stopped buying Blu-rays, so now I get all digital movies. I just wanted to cut down some of the clutter and some of the, pricing that Blu-rays can have. But yeah, video games, I mostly go digital everything, video games included now. Okay. So I don't remember, so if you push X on the controller for this, his special is he just does the huzzah thing. That thing. But anyway, long story short, I'm trying to go digital now because it's 2019 and digital is just the way to go for most media. But I still do have some physical old games left. I have some DVD movies left, but alright, enough of that. So we'll go in now and I'll show you some Golden Axe, which very similar to Streets of Rage, but this game, especially the soundtrack, this game has a really good soundtrack too. Yeah, good shit. So another player select screen. I usually always go with this guy. Not sure what his name is. Yeah, such a good soundtrack. Say whatever you will about the Genesis, but man, it had some really good music on it. I always thought Golden Axe was at least slightly harder than Streets of Rage 2 for whatever reason. Yep, and then here's his special. You push the X button. It gets kind of confusing remembering the difference between all the games. Like in the first Streets of Rage, we saw the pushing the X button brings in the car that drops the rocket launcher. And this little guy, yeah. And of course you can kick her off of that and then climb on it yourself. This is the way to be right here. Yep, and then she kicks you off. Give me that shit back. Oh boy, now they're both down here. Okay. And this will be a good time to use the magic, I think. Yep. There we go. Oh. There's my first death. Okay. Oh, these guys are rough. Okay, the magic definitely helped in that situation. And then you come to the campfire in between each thing and you get to kick this guy for some more magic. Okay. So yes, that's Golden Axe. I'm not going to show off Golden Axe 2 and 3 because I don't have nearly enough nostalgia for them as I do for Streets of Rage. Altered Beast is another classic. Comic Zone. Let's see what else we got here. Virtua Fighter is another good one. Toe Jam and Earl. This is another game I like a lot. Revenge of Shinobi. I'm not really familiar with the Shinobi franchise. I just know that this is the one that this is the only one that I've played. So this is a 1989-1990 game, it looks like. So released just before I was born. Another game with a fantastic soundtrack. God. This is making me so nostalgic playing this. Well, I asked my friends, I was like, do you guys, any of you guys have like the same level of nostalgia that I do for the Genesis? And they were like, not at all. So I decided I wanted to put this video out somehow. So this will be the first solo video that I've done in a while. Oh, and then Specials X. So, yep. I love that sound that they make, that noise that they make when you blow them up. But yeah, if you're watching, leave in the comments if there's any Sega Genesis games that you like. I might do another one of these videos eventually. I'm going to be covering quite a few more games here, especially some of the mods that the Steam Workshop has put out. But if there's anything in particular that you want to see, and then thinking about maybe getting into some game emulation eventually, because obviously that opens up the doors to a lot more stuff you can do, so we'll see what happens. Alright, yes, that's Revenge of Shinobi. Alright, so we'll get into a little bit of the modding stuff because I can't think of anything right now off the top of my head. That pretty much, Sonic the Hedgehog and Streets of Rage and Golden Axe were my top 3 Genesis favorites. So I'll show you some of the modding stuff. So if you notice here, I click A when I want to play the game, but when you click mods, it brings up, so like, look, Micro Machines, Terminator, Tecmo Cup Football, all these awesome things. I want to get into some of these and just see what they're all about. So it shows up as Alex Kidd that you're still playing it, but now it's just going to be this Micro Machines game. Oh yeah. I've never even played this game before and I really like the soundtrack. Alright, so obviously some of these games I'm going to stumble through and I apologize for that, but a lot of these I've never played before. Oh boy, Spider, Bruno, Dwayne, Cherry, Ray. Man, this audio right now sounds really fucked up. I wonder if that's how it's supposed to sound. Well, Walter's the obvious choice here. Okay. Let's see what this game's all about. Oh boy. Oh boy. Ooh, this is rough. Ooh. Woof. This has not aged well, man. Wowie zowie. Okay, so that was Micro Machines. Some of these I really am just going to do some like quick dips in to see what they're all about. So Tecmo Cup Football. So I played, I mean, obviously the Atari was before my time and all that stuff, but I think Tecmo Bowl. Was Tecmo Bowl an Atari game? I know it's an NES game for sure, because that's what I played it on, was an NES. Boys soccer team. Oh, so is this... Oh, it's a soccer game. Okay. Dreams versus Bulls. Okay. Man, this is interesting. Whoops. Oh boy. Alright, well this definitely isn't what I was expecting at all, since it was called Tecmo Cup. I mean, I guess it makes sense that it's not football, but... Okay, so I'm just going to flip through these and see which one of these has mods. Beyond Oasis, so it's a Russian version. Hellfire and Fire Shark. Columns. So columns is kind of like Tetris. Krusty's Super Fun House. There we go. So this will be a Simpsons game mod here. 1992, so the year after I was born. Oh yeah. Hi kids. Oh boy. Well, this is interesting. Yeah, a lot of these games I cannot guarantee the quality on, just because I haven't played them before. So let's see. Can I get up there? Interesting. Old games are so fascinating because it's like, if I really wanted to know what to do with this right now, I could just like look it up on the internet probably and get like a walkthrough, but it's like, man, back in the 90s and definitely before then, it's like, what did people do? Okay. So let's see. I'm going to try to go through some of these pretty quick. Rock and Roll Racing. I pretty much went through the Steam Workshop and just started selecting stuff because it's very easy to add mods to these games. World Series Baseball and True Lies. See, World Series Baseball, I tried a little bit of this one out yesterday, and this is an interesting one. With MLB The Show coming out at the end of the month, it definitely made me look back on how far we've come, especially with sports games. Okay. Let's do Red Sox versus White Sox. How about that? Okay.
Welcome to the game between the Red
This robotic voice is killing me.
The White Sox take the field.
Okay. So yeah, you select your style of swing, and then you push the B button to swing no matter what. Yep. Yeah. The timing is really weird in this.
Next up, number 39.
Let's go for a contact swing here. There we go. At least I got a hold of it there. Home run, baby. Amazing. Well, that feels pretty good. Let's go for a normal hit here. So see, it's kind of hard to tell. Like it's pretty good about telling you when it's going to be a ball or a strike. I've always been a very aggressive hitter in sports games. And I used to actually play baseball in real life, too.
It's a chopper
Yep.
down the line to third. Next up, no.
Okay. Let's go for a power swing. Why not? Okay, that's a ball. Another ball. I'm pretty sure my dad still has our Sega Genesis at home. And that's going to be foul. But I think he still has this game. He has a baseball game, but I can't remember which one he has. That's going to be a pop-up. Gotta love the distorted crowd sounds. So yes, that's World Series Baseball. I'll probably go back in and play some games of that later at some point. True Lies, I'm not going to play because I've never even seen the movie, so I'm not too familiar with what the game would be like. I wanted to see if I was trying to launch this Beavis and Butthead one yesterday, but it would not launch. Is this the same one? Yeah, it goes to this black screen and it doesn't launch. It's weird. I mean, I know modding is imperfect and everything, but yeah, it's disappointing because I actually remember playing Beavis and Butthead as a kid. I love that show. I don't remember the game being particularly great. Let's see what Jurassic Park's all about. God. So the first... Oh man, that voice. The first Jurassic Park is one of my favorite movies of all time. I loved that movie as a kid. Alright. So I don't think I ever played this. I had a Game Gear as a kid because my parents knew that I loved the Genesis so much that they got me a Sega Game Gear, which was their handheld system. That thing was fucking bad. And so I had Sonic the Hedgehog and I think I had Jurassic Park for the Game Gear. Oh, man. Now, I don't remember enough about the difference between the Genesis and the Game Gear to remember if Game Gear games were totally separate from Genesis games or if they were just ports of the Genesis games put on the smaller cartridge. Oh boy. Oh my god. Oh dear god. Alright, let's see if I can just run away from this guy. Oh boy. This is very difficult so far. Ooh. So this is like a pretty good example of the Genesis having some shitty games because they would just take a movie license and they would make like games out of it, and they definitely were not quality games, but they knew that people would buy them because the hype for Jurassic Park was real in the 90s. So I mean, who am I kidding? The hype for Jurassic Park is still real. I mean, I guess not as much as it would have been in the 90s. I haven't seen the new Jurassic World yet, but I've heard that it's not nearly as good. I thought Jurassic World was fine. I definitely wasn't a hater of Jurassic World. But everything I've heard about the new Jurassic World has led me to not be too optimistic about it. And speaking of not being optimistic, this game doesn't play as well as I remember it. Let's see. Oh god, Clay Fighter. I'm curious to see some of these mods I've never even launched before, so I'm curious to see if there's any other ones like Beavis and Butthead that just straight up don't launch. I don't think I ever owned this game. I think my dad actually rented this game for me. We had a video store called Mega Hits, And then eventually we had Blockbuster and Movie Gallery in our town. But I think Mega Hits was the first place that I was able to rent games and VHS tapes from when I was a kid. So let's see, Tiny Taffy, The Blob, Blue Suede Goo, Ichabod Clay. Well, Ichabod Clay. I'm pretty sure this is a fighting game. If it is, I'll definitely be really bad at it. I'm very bad at fighting games. I like them quite a bit. Oh, God. Yeah, I'm like pushing a bunch of different buttons, and it seems like that's the only attack that I can figure out how to do here. Ichabod Clay. Alright, so that's the end of that then. What else we got here? RoboCop versus the Terminator, Predator 2, Mortal Kombat, Streets of Rage 3, Sonic. Alright, so how do I see this and not want to try this out? This is an actual mod for Streets of Rage 3. We'll see if it actually works here. Looks like it might be one of the... Okay, there we go. So like I said, I didn't play Streets of Rage 3 as a kid. I played the first two. And I didn't come back to 3 until I was an adult, I don't think. So we'll see if it adds what I think it's going to add. Yep, there he is. There's my boy. So these are the 3 characters in Streets of Rage 3, and then they added fucking Sonic. The modding community is just the best. Oh, God. Oh, this is fantastic. This is... What's up with these noises coming out of Sonic? It's so fucking funny. This is goofy as hell. I'm 100% here for this shit. Maybe one of these days I'll do a full Sonic run, beat the whole fucking game. I don't give a shit. I ain't afraid. This is fucking hilarious. I didn't even know this was a thing until I got on the Steam Workshop the other day. Alright, that's enough of that. That's really funny. I can really appreciate when people take the time to do dumb shit like this. Return of Superman, X-Men, Flashback, Batman Forever. Let's check out Batman Forever real quick. Man, I think I had a lot of games made by Acclaim when I was a kid. I think they made Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, that N64 game. That was probably my second game console. So the Sega Genesis and the N64 were the 2 I have the most nostalgia for. Oh boy.
If the bat wants to play, we'll play.
Amazing. I've never been a huge fan of just Batman and Robin. I've never been the biggest fan of the Michael Keaton Batman movies. My favorite Batman property of all time is Batman the Animated Series. It's, in my opinion, the best superhero piece of media they've ever made. I absolutely love that. So this has got the look of like Mortal Kombat, where it looks like quasi real. Yeah, like, I'm not mad at the way this looks, because I like the way that Mortal Kombat looks a lot. Like the old Mortal Kombats where they almost look like real people. I'm not good with my wording on this stuff, and I don't know a whole lot about the technology, so I don't know what you would call this, where it looks like it's like 8-bit or 16-bit, but then it looks realistic. I don't know what the word for that is, but that's exactly what this is. It looks like Mortal Kombat, like 1, 2, and 3. Do I need to go through here now? Do I need to jump? Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to linger too long on any of these games. Let's see, Streets of Rage 2, Animaniacs. Might as well check out Animaniacs. It used to be one of my favorite shows as a kid. Okay. Yeah, this show's always had some really clever writing in it. Like, even as an adult, you can go back and appreciate the kind of writing that's in it. There we go. Okay, I see. So you can... It's like rewinding. I'm using the triggers. It's like rewinding the game, which is really bizarre. Okay. Yeah, some of these older games really bug me because it's like I'll sit here and I'll be like pushing the button, like trying to do what it's wanting me to do, and it just doesn't, it's just not having it. But yeah, so that's Animaniacs. Road Rash. Yeah, Road Rash, I feel like we can't not show Road Rash, or at least a little bit of it. Well, there's the old Electronic Arts logo. I was seeing that a lot yesterday when I was flipping through some of these games. Hell yeah. I think, didn't they try to bring back Road Rash recently? So yeah, this definitely has not aged very well, but I remember liking this game a lot as a kid, mostly because I just liked being able to punch people off their motorcycles. And they've come out with various iterations of this game over the years, like, I think maybe even like the 360, Xbox 360 had one that was like a much more violent version, like, because eventually they added, where you could use like chains to like hit people off their bikes and stuff. Oh, and then I hit that car. Perfect. So this is always weird, having to like run and find your bike. This was kind of a cool thing, but it definitely was annoying when you were trying to do good at the racing part of it. But yeah, this game, just as a kid, it had just about everything you could want. It had like some at least decent racing to it. And of course, probably being able to punch people off the bikes was the main draw. Thinking back on it now, like if you fall off your bike even one time, it kind of makes it impossible to win the race. Although I'm not doing bad, I'm playing catch up right now. Yeah, I'm in 5th place now after being in 15th, so that's not bad. And of course, as with most old games, it doesn't look good, doesn't feel good to play for the most part, but there's a certain level of nostalgia that I'm willing to give a pass on most of the Sega Genesis bullshit, because I just feel so nostalgic when I'm playing these games. Okay, second place. Oh boy. So I wonder how long you have to go until the race is over. I don't see any kind of indication about laps or anything. I see a timer down there. I'm digging the soundtrack right now too. There we go. I won a race. That's cool. Yeah! Oh god, this soundtrack right now. Ah, so... God. Even the worst Genesis games have good soundtracks. Alright. Okay, so this next game I'm not going to play any of it. Because I hate the way it plays. But I love this shit as a kid. So, I played this as a kid and then completely forgot about it as an adult. And I spent years trying to figure out what this game was. So I just went on Google Images one day. And I was like just flipping through like Sega Genesis covers, like game covers. And I stumbled upon this game. And I rented this from Blockbuster one time. So it's Haunting, starring Poltergeist. Like instead of Poltergeist, it's Poltergeist. So the premise of this game is cool, but I can't, as an adult, I tried playing a little bit of this yesterday, and I can't quite figure out how the controls work or anything. So a family has moved into their home, and you're a ghost, and you can like hide in the furniture and pop out and like try to scare them and stuff. And there's like a scare meter at the bottom. So I'll show a little bit of it, but I can't figure out for the life of me how this game works. I've tried pushing all the buttons, so you can kind of wander around, and there's like a prompt there that lights up by the couch. When I push the A button, that's all that happens is my guy spins. And I'm pushing the A button again. Push the B button, it brings up like this fear. So that like put a present on the floor. Pushing the X button brought up voodoo. You can go in the TV. So yeah, like I said, I'm not going to show a lot of it. I always love the premise of this game, but I just don't think it's a very good game. Lion King. Gotta show some of that. So yeah, I'm curious to see how some of these like Disney games hold up too, because like you'd think out of all the like licensed movie games, the Disney ones would have the best chance of being good still, but you never know. Let's see, so that's the war button. So, okay, so I can't jump on the porcupines, that makes sense. Cool. I remember seeing commercials for this game on TV all the time when I was watching like Power Rangers or VR Troopers as a kid, and I was telling my parents that I wanted it, and of course, just like most kids, I didn't get everything that I ever wanted. So it's, like I said, I really, regardless of the outcome of this video or the quality of any of these games, I have to give so much credit to the Steam modding community for doing this, and people who are committed to like preserving old games and making them available for emulation, and just, they're doing God's work out there making these games available. Shit. Yeah, honestly, out of all the games I've played today, this one is not the worst. It still doesn't feel too bad. See, they tie a lot of these mods to certain games. So, like, see, there's like Earthworm Jim, Addams Family, Splatterhouse. There's another Beavis and Paraba. And that, it's like another Beavis and Butthead mod. I downloaded another one to see if this one might work. Looks like we might get to play Beavis and Butthead after all. Fantastic. So this will probably be the game that I end on for today. I want to save some for the next video because regardless of whether you guys watch these or not, or whether my friends want to come on with me or not, I'm going to keep making these because I just want to dive into some more Genesis games, I think, and there's just too many to do. I want to keep this video under an hour or so.
Pull my finger.
No way.
Come on, Beavis. Pull it.
Okay.
That was cool.
So it's cool they actually got, it sounds like Mike Judge at least, to do the voices. I love doing these. Or wait, is it not? Okay, it just put me right into the game. See, there's actually a little bit of depth to the movement and stuff here. There's a Guar poster. So I remember playing this game as a kid and being really confused about what to do. I think you have to like... So yeah, right now I'm like confined to this area. Okay, so I picked up the TV remote. Okay. So X is like a run button, A is jump. It's not letting me go any further to the right. This is interesting. So yeah, like I said, sometimes these old games just, they don't want to cooperate with you. There's got to be something that I'm missing here. And you can't go any further. But one thing I will say, they captured the look and feel of Beavis and Butthead pretty well. So, all right, well, I think that's where we're going to stop the video for today. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you if you've been tuning into all the videos regularly anyway. But yeah, I'll end up doing another one of these. This video is just under an hour long, so I feel like I have enough. I definitely have enough games to do another couple more videos with this. So thanks again for tuning in to another Adjective Noun Gaming video. I'm going to try to get this posted as soon as possible, but in the meantime, go back and watch any videos you've missed, any Sunset and Stardew videos, XDOM, a series that my friend Ben and I do where we combine Fast and Furious characters with the game XCOM. We put 2 episodes out of that, put a bunch of episodes out of Game Dev Tycoon. We've had guests on, we've had John, we've had Ben, we've had Julie, and then Aaron and I, my friend Aaron and I, are doing Final Fridays where we're playing Final Fantasy V every Friday. So yeah, so we got plenty of content on the channel right now, and then we're going to get the Sega Genesis one posted here hopefully sometime in the near future. But thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye.